last week I was looking around my garden and there were, signs of spring everywhere. The forsythia were just getting that little hint of green where you knew eventually that was going to come out and become the beautiful yellow flower that tells us spring is here. It's like those first signs, the snowdrops and the little crocuses and whatnot. But mine is the forsythia. And I remember going out to Phoenix Perennials, 4 years ago, was it, Gary? I think I came out and I'm like, I need forsythia. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. Way to come in August for forsythia there, Vance. You've schooled me on how to find what I need at Phoenix Perennials at what time of year. And this time of year, it's all about what's sitting before you.
It's all about hellebores.
It is.
It's the time.
Now, people in this Olympic year will remember the hellebores were part of the bouquets handed out in 2010, right?
Yeah, that's right. There was a hellebore that was named for the Vancouver Olympics called Vancouver Medallion.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And we still have that one available, actually.
You do. You have a sea of these out at Phoenix Perennials. Now, it's 6 Road?
Number 6 Road.
And
between Bridgeport and Cambie.
Right.
So it's not far from IKEA.
It's right there.
So like everybody who wants to come to us, they also combine us with IKEA or dropping somebody or picking somebody up from the airport.
Oh, right. Well, it's just right there. And there's so much parking, super easy to find. You pull in and it's kind of that family environment. There's just people waiting to help you out. What are you looking for? What I remember going in and going, I don't know enough about this. And you and I walked around because I met you through breakfast television. And you and I were walking around and you're like, I need an idea and a picture of what your garden is like. Because the front of my house gets full sun, super hot, dries out in a heartbeat. But the rest of my little patio postage stamp gets a little bit of sun in one spot, but mostly is shaded and has those big maple trees above. Right. Those old. So it seems bright, and then when it all comes in the springtime, it's very shady. But you've given me so many gorgeous plants that come back bigger, stronger, and more beautiful every year with your tutelage. And the hellebores have been a big piece of that puzzle for me. I didn't know anything about these plants.
Well, now we've converted you. I can tell.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, hellebores are amazing. And, even for your yard, there are hellebores that can do full sun and really hot, and they're kind of drought tolerant. And then there's hellebores that are really good for shade as well. So you could have hellebores all over your garden.
And I do now because
everywhere
you showed me the ones that are kind of like the satellite dish that love the sun and the ones that sort of shy away from it a little bit.
I like that satellite dish thing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So traditionally, a lot of the classic hellebores that we talk about are the Lenten roses, the ones that are starting to bloom now in February and bloom all through March and April. And those ones have nodding heads.
Yes.
So they look downwards. And
nodding heads.
Yeah, they nod.
I like that.
Yeah. And I love those because the backs of the petals are actually really pretty. And they nod there, and they're very elegant. And then you can just bend over and lift their little face up at you and look at it. And you can, and they all have different faces because most of them are grown from seeds. So every flower is different.
Yeah.
So you can collect different forms. Like I have 180 in my garden.
180 in your, I want to come and see your garden sometime.
Yeah, you should come over and
but
see
going
my
to Phoenix Perennials and seeing like the greenhouses, like the Hellebore Hurrahs, that's this weekend, right?
So our Hellebore Hurrah is this weekend. It starts tomorrow. Rain, shine, or snow. It starts tomorrow. And we have about 100 different kinds of hellebores in a whole greenhouse. We have an entire greenhouse filled with hellebores. Every table is covered in hellebores. There's 1,500, 2,000 different hellebores in there.
It's like walking into Oz for people who love flowers.
Yeah, so
it really is. Like you walk in and it's just like, oh, look at every color you can imagine, like deep burgundies and purples and then bright whites with just a line of pink.
Yeah, I have a new staff member who joined us after the Hellebore Hurrah last year. So this is her first year experiencing the Hellebore Hurrah, and she's from Winnipeg originally. And she actually kept hellebores alive in Winnipeg with like under huge mounds of protection and stuff. But she was standing in the greenhouse yesterday and she said, I didn't even know this was possible. Right. As she looks around at all of this gorgeousness. I mean, imagine hellebores are blooming right now in gardens. Okay.
In my garden.
Yeah, they're a little bit limp in the gardens right now with all this frost, but as soon as the frost is gone and it warms up a little bit, they'll just pop right up again and keep on flowering.
And that's the thing, that they're so hardy. Right?
They're so strong, yeah.
So people are like, I don't have a green thumb. This is your plant.
This is they're easy.
Right.
Yeah, they're really easy to grow. They're really long-lived as well. So they can live as long as a human, if not longer.
Wow.
So there's a woman who's a regular customer of ours, and she came with a corsage one day with a little hellebore flower on it. And it turns out it was from a hellebore plant that her mother somehow managed to get back into the country in the 1960s from England in her suitcase.
Somehow.
And they've passed this, they've divided it, and now, or their mother's passed away, but she and her sister both have divisions from this hellebore plant that's been in their family for 50 years.
That's so cool, because that used to only really be a story of a rose.
Yeah,
it's my grandmother's roses or my great grandmother's roses.
Well, now it's your mother's hellebore, right?
And also that they have this greenery vibe year round.
Yeah, because they're evergreen as well.
Yeah.
So they grow to about a foot tall and about a foot wide or foot and a half wide, and they have just lovely mound of palmate, so kind of like your hand foliage. So little kind of leaflets all coming out like a hand, and they're really attractive. So they form this mound of evergreen foliage all through the season, but then they bloom for 3 months, starting in January or February, and going, blooming when nothing's blooming.
There.
They bloom before the forsythia even.
Yeah, I know.
Imagine.
It's so good.
Hellebores need to be hellebores are the signal of spring.
Yeah, they're the base.
The signal of hope.
It's coming. It's coming.
Hellebores equal hope.
So when we're going shopping for them with this weather, are we keeping them inside?
Well, yeah. So when people come to the Hellebore Hurrah this weekend, everybody's going to ask, what do I do with my hellebore? Because they've got these new treasures and they're in full bloom. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, just while we're having these frosts, I would just keep them inside or put them in a garage or a shed.
That's what I was going to say. Could I put it in the garage where it's still cool? Because I'd be afraid to heat them up too much.
Yeah, if you don't have to bring them into the house, because it's going to be a bit of a shock to go to room temperature for them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you just want to put them somewhere a little bit protected. I mean, in the ground right now, I've sent out a weather flash to our customers to say, put some upside down pots over the ones that are in the ground just to protect them, or put some more leaves around them.
I need to get on your flash list.
Oh yeah, you need to get on the flash list.
Because I don't have an upside down pot over my hellebores right now.
Well, I mean, it helps them a little bit.
Yeah. But I want to do what I can. You're teaching me so much.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Exactly. We've been talking a lot about, prior to Christmas, we got together and talked about sort of not doing too much with regard to garden cleanup. And when we get closer to the real get your hands dirty, dig in, create your garden for the year and moving forward, I left all things as you told me. I didn't rake the leaves. I didn't cut back, some of the plants that had died off. That eventually, I'm seeing some that are starting to grow at the base, and I've still got the stems and sticks that are there. Should I just leave those? I'm worried about the new growth at the bottom now with the snow. It's probably stalled. But as soon as you see new growth, do you cut that stuff back or?
Yeah, you can start doing some cleanup. So one of the reasons why we didn't want to do the winter cleanup is so your plants would be hardier and stronger, but also because the pollinators, all the beneficial insects and stuff actually hide in those leaves.
Right.
And they actually, those orchard mason bees might actually be hiding inside the hollow stems of some of your grasses or other perennials and things. So
I want them to be okay.
They start emerging in March.
Okay. So leave it because there's no real. I'll power wash before I trim back stuff. Then.
Yeah. So if you wait till it warms up a little bit in March, mid to late March is a really good time to clean up.
All right. And then with regard to the actual Hellebore Hurrah that's happening, what's the one that's in front of you?
So we have Madame Lemonnier. So Madame Lemonnier. She's French.
She's beautiful.
So Madame Lemonnier has the largest flowers of any hellebore. They can get up to about 4 inches across. I've measured them with a ruler.
Wow.
4 inches, yeah. And she's super rare because there's lots of different groups of hellebores, and there's 2 main groups, and they do not cross because they've diverged too far evolutionarily. So it's like you can't cross a dog and a cat because they diverged a long time ago, right?
Right.
So same thing in hellebores, except in a couple cases, they've been able to get them to cross. So this is a cross between the Christmas rose, which we talked about back in November.
That's what I have a couple of in my yard.
And the Lenten rose, the ones that start blooming now in February and March. So Madame Lemonnier has the rich colors and pinks and stuff that you would get from the Lenten roses, but that upright satellite habit that with the flowers looking right at you, a little bit of arching as well, but also flowers that look right at you. And then you get these huge flowers as well. We're
going to give this one away right now. Jimmy, you ready for that? Okay. If you would like this in your yard, Jimmy just is about to put on social media exactly what it looks like. But 604-449-8983, 604-449-8983. Gary, just to ballpark, how much would a hellebore like this
So this Hellebore is about $30.
Yes.
So one thing to keep in mind about Hellebores, some people are a little bit surprised. Sometimes they cost more than an average perennial, but that's because for the seed-grown ones, they take 2 to 3 years to get to blooming size.
Right.
So other perennials where you might just pay $10 for, well, that might only take, you might only have to grow that for 2 or 3 months. So Hellebores, they do take a little bit longer to get up to speed, but you're investing in them because this is something you're going to have for decades. You're going to pass along to the next generation in your will.
Yeah.
It's going to be a family heirloom.
Yeah, it's going to fill out your garden in a way that, it's a piece.
Bigger and better.
The investment, when you think about that, because we were talking about perennials versus annuals earlier, nothing wrong with going and getting some annuals and sprinkling them through your yard, but those are like, for me, it's kind of burning money because it's there. Like I like it, but it's like cut flowers. I'd much prefer to buy a hellebore or peonies. I love peonies.
Oh, peonies.
They're beautiful
super long lived too.
And they get bigger and bigger. Last year, mine were massive. I was so excited by this flower, and I hesitated to cut the blooms off and put them in my house because I love them so much in my yard, and knowing that they weren't going to last that long there either. But that's how much I love the flowers and plants in nature, to just continue to grow that growth. I'm a tree lover in that regard as well.
Yeah, perennial. I mean, some people say friends. Well, in our business, in the perennial business, some people say friends don't let friends buy annuals, but
that's funny.
But
that's like my friend in the diamond business. Friends don't let friends pay retail.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But, I love those sayings.
Annuals have their place.
They do.
But really,
I put them in the baskets by the front door and,
Old style gardening, you used to just go and buy flats and flats and flats of annuals and just mass plant annuals all in your, all your impatiens and begonias in the front. And we don't do that so much, but, but you think of your gardens, you can have a matrix of shrubs, perennials, and then highlight here and there with just some spots of color, some bright color with some annuals.
And that's kind of where I was going, Gary, as opposed to that third and fourth and fifth flat of annuals. I would take that $60 and go buy 2 hellebores and put them in that area, and they'll come back and grow and be that green as well as floral element within there.
They give you flowers at a time of year when nothing else is happening. And
Linda Cameron, congratulations on your Hellebore. You are our winner, listening from West Vancouver. We appreciate that. Gary, always a pleasure to have you here. Go to Phoenix Perennials and Specialty Plants Nursery this weekend for the Hellebore Hurrah. And always just check in with Gary and his team there if you're looking to redo your garden. It's a great place to start.
Thank you.